What's it going to take to get Joe Jacoby in the Hall of Fame? Let's do this already. And is the sale that's supposed to happen 1 week from today, is it in jeopardy? What about the offensive line? Where are they ranked? We'll talk about all that on the Daily Commanders Update for July 13th. Let's go. Greetings and salutations, and welcome to Ref the District's Daily Commanders Update for 13 July. I am the Stoner. So we got a few things to go over with, but first, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, just like this little graphic is showing you. And hit notifications so you know when we post some content. And we appreciate everybody who checks us out always. So let's get to it. We've got 3 quick topics to go over today. First of all, the big one is Joe Jacoby was named semi-finalist again for the Veterans Committee for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We all know it's an absolute travesty that he is not yet in the Hall of Fame. He's gone through the entire process of being eligible for 20 years for the regular Hall of Fame. Now he is put up before the Veterans Committee. Right now they have about 31 players, they have exactly 31 players who are semifinalists. And what they're going to do is they're going to whittle it down to 12 on July 27th. That's 2 weeks from now. So they're going to whittle it down to 12 then. And then after that, they're going to have 3 that they're going to put up for induction. And that will be in August. So what you need to do is you need to bug the people who are part of the Hall of Fame committee. They're the ones that lobby on behalf of Joe Jacoby. Joe Jacoby, there's nothing he can do about it. But there are sports writers, Hall of Fame members. Bug like your local beat reporters and sports anchors and things like that to say, hey, look, we got to get some momentum going for Joe Jacoby. He absolutely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. During his tenure, he was the best left tackle in the game. Think about that. Who's the best left tackle in the game right now? Trent Williams, right? Is Trent Williams going to the Hall of Fame? Absolutely. So why isn't Joe Jacoby going to the Hall of Fame? He was named a part of the all-decades team in the 80s. Because of his work on the Hogs on the offensive line. The whole reason they have a name, the Hogs, is because of him and his partners on the offensive line. And they were a staple of the 80s and early 90s for the Washington franchise. Think about this. They won 3 Super Bowls with him as their left tackle. And again, I bring up left tackle. He played all over the line, but mostly he played left tackle. Left tackle is the second most important position on a football team. Is that not right? So if he's the second most important player on the team, and remember, they did this with 3 different quarterbacks. They did this with all different kinds of running backs and all of that. And he was the man that was anchoring the Hogs during that time. So he went to 4 straight Pro Bowls. He was an all-pro 3 times. An all-pro means you're the number 1 guy. Pro Bowls can get a little dicey, those selections. But all-pro means you're the guy. You're the number 1 left tackle in the game. And he earned that honor 3 times. And like I said, he's on the 80s all-decade team. He played for 13 years. And during those 13 years, the Redskins were won double digits in the season 8 times. Think about that. Riggins was back there during those times. Again, he had 3 different quarterbacks that he protected. They won 4 NFC East titles when he was there. And he was a left tackle in 4 NFC championship games. And one of them, he was the right tackle for an NFC championship game. So he played in 5 of them. So we've got to push. We've got to be out there pushing his name because Joe Jacoby deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. You don't want to wait until he passes away until he finally gets that honor, and he never gets to live that. So get out there and do some things, and let's get Joe Jacoby into the Hall of Fame. Finally, it's about time. All right, second thing I want to talk about is this information that just came out overnight about the sale of the team possibly being in jeopardy. That's a little bit scary the way this is worded, and I'm going to read it to you here in just a second. But it's 1 week from today when the owners are supposed to vote on this sale, and basically that'll do it. They'll sign some papers a few days later or a few weeks later, whatever it may be. July 20th, 1 week from today, it's supposed to happen. But here is the headline from the Washington Post with Mark Maskey and Nikki Javala. Issues arose Wednesday, that's yesterday, in the legal negotiations between the NFL and Daniel Snyder related to indemnification for the John Gruden lawsuit, sources say, threatening to complicate the sale of the Commanders to Josh Harris. And then there's this whole article. And I think it's important to note that, indemnification, big word, right? He's basically trying to say that if he sells the team, then anything that happened during his time as owner, he is free and clear. You can't legally go after him anymore. That's what he wants. And I don't know that the NFL is willing to do that. But know this, there is zero, and I mean less than zero chance that this sale doesn't go through. He has no leverage. It's not like there's another buyer sitting behind waiting to jump into Josh Harris's spot. Not for that amount of money. Maybe you can go call Brian Davis or whatever, see if he's still got money and wants to do it. But there's nobody available that's going to be that he can say, well, if you're not willing to do it, then I'll just go to the next guy. There's nobody there. And the sale's going to happen. It's too far along in this process to where he can say, well, I'm backing out. That's not going to happen. So while it is in the news and the Washington Post did a good job of digging some of this up, it's not going to affect it. I don't know how that's going to be handled in the end, but don't worry. The sale's happening next week. And then finally, there is this new ranking from Warren Sharp. He put out the offensive line rankings. And Washington, shocker, just like everything else in these lists, these offseason lists, it's list season. Washington's 30th out of 32. Now listen, I'm not a big believer in this offensive line. We've talked about what they have going for them. They weren't very good last year. Now all of a sudden they bring in basically 4 new position starters, but you've got 4 undrafted guys and a second rounder on this, or 4 late round or undrafted guys and a second rounder. Leno, I believe, was a 6th or 7th rounder. Then you don't even know who's playing left guard at this point. But if it ends up being either Chris Paul, who's a 7th rounder, or Sadiq Charles, now he was a 3rd rounder, or maybe 4th rounder. But then your center is Nick Gates. He was undrafted. Andrew Wiley, I believe, was undrafted. And then, of course, Sam Cosmi, who's moving from right tackle to right guard. He was, of course, a 2nd rounder. And they obviously have never played together. I don't necessarily have a problem with 30th. You got to put them somewhere in this list. So I guess that's okay. But, man, the disrespect that the Commanders get on these offseason lists is off the chart. I don't think they have anybody on any list that's top 10. Any position group, defensive line, sorry, they definitely have that. But just about anywhere else, they're not top 10 in anything. It's a little bit disrespectful. But that's all right. We'll see. Proof will be in the pudding when it comes about here when training camp starts. 2 weeks from today, folks, training camp starts. Next week, the sale of the team. 2 weeks, training camp. It's all coming very quickly. And we appreciate, again, all of you. Make sure, again, you hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Let us know your comments about Joe Jacoby in the Hall of Fame, or whether you're worried about this sale not happening, or, of course, the offensive line being ranked 30th. We appreciate everybody. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and the notifications. And as always, be a fan.